Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Soaring Through Chaos. And the reason we do this is because we are in the midst of a lot of global change. We always thought that there's a need for change, but we never knew how it would come in the form of a tiny, tiny microbe, a coronavirus. And it is shaking us up to the roots in different ways. Some of us are worried about our health and happiness. Some of us are worried about the safety of our loved ones. Many are worried about jobs and economics and businesses not going anywhere. And there's a lot of finger pointing. They did it and she did it and he did it. Amid all this, we know for a fact that when things are not good, when we're out of our comfort zone, we are presented with opportunities to grow. When we are able to stay calm in outside our comfort zone, which we are, most of us are, that's when the possibilities of growth exist, much more than the incremental changes that we go through day to day. And with me is an amazing angel I got to know about 2014 or so, Gina Velez. And Gina and I became friends when another common friend, Ben Salzman, offered as a gift to the community his work on the Enneagram, along with many other things. Enneagram was a blessing for me. And I think both of us were Enneagram 7, and we both happened to be in one group. Oh, 3, okay. And I was thinking I was a 3, and we were both there. And suddenly, like, ta-da, we become friends. And among other things, once I needed a vehicle because I'd sold all my vehicles and I was visiting the US. And Gina is like, here's my truck. Keep it as long as you want. And I kept it for like 35, 40 days. That's how magic happens. Gina, tell us all about yourself. Tell us how
Ah,
you were there at the Enneagram workshop, where life began, your journey into healing and into empowering people. You've done a lot in your life.
thank you. I want to appreciate you back. Um, when I met you and heard your story, it just empowers so many, the story of where you come from. And I think the whole Enneagram group was just so quiet as you're speaking to show what possibility is in the world. And I think I also amplify that with you, is what's possible in the world. Um, you said a few things, like one of growing, like to have people start to look at, instead of pointing out of whose fault it is, but to look inside. I love that because I believe you're either growing or protecting. I don't think you can do both at the same time. So I love the fact that you said growing. And just to talk about the truck and follow through, is I call that third way, because there's Einsteinian, Newtonian, and third way. So there's one, that we think we can control, that we're going to figure it all out on paper. And it's very mass world, very Newtonian, whereas Einsteinian is all about imagination, right? And dreaming. And then the third way is us sharing what we know, who we are, what we do in the world. And then you can't make it up. It's just like right there in front of us. And that's what I consider this creation to be. And I just am grateful. So thank you. So I guess I can tell everyone that I don't even know where to start. Let's check with my body, because I believe that if I go heady, it's just trying to get the data from here. And what I've learned is that there's this brilliant body intelligence, and we are a whole unit. So if I just presence with what is, and it doesn't have to be meditation, it doesn't have to be long, it can just be letting it land on me. And I think I will start with just what we're born into, and what I was born into was chaos. So it was almost poetic of how you called this chaos. And running on chaos created survivor and getting through life, and how you can get through. And, I don't want to do it that way. I don't want to do it that way, but oh my God, how do I do it? And there was years that I just went numb and fell asleep on myself until I was about 29 years old. And I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And that first year I was like, okay, I'm done. Take me. Whew, please. Yes, this is difficult. Until I started facing and accepting. And when I start to fully face, or anyone starts to fully I call it fact, which is a Hendricks term, which is facing, accepting, choosing, and taking action. So when I fully face my results, I'm creating sick. I'm doing sick. So what am I doing that's creating my sick? So that's when life started to really change for me. Because I had to be responsible for what my results were. So that's when I started saying, I wonder what's here for me to learn. And then I started using like the rule of 3. If I'd had, 3 bad relationships, like, I might have something to do with this. And so when I became to get the wherewithal to be able be my own witness, to check in my own skin, to expand my capacity to receive as well as to give, because I think we're all really good at giving, but I'm taking to just go, what does that feel like? And what do I want? And what is my experience? So it started to change then. And Enneagram was just part of that journey with you. And I'm so grateful. And that also supported me in I started with business consulting, relationship coaching, and now I'm an inspirational success innovator. It's a mouthful. I have inspired so many by just being me, by just showing up, being present, holding a container, listening, and listening without an agenda. Listening because I'm actually interested without a listening filter of how I'm going to respond. And a lot of that came from practicing not going out there. Like something happens. Something is always going to happen, right? And it's not always bad. I mean, I could win $10 on a scratcher lottery ticket. It's not always bad. But something will happen. And that gives me another opportunity to react. Now that's my responsibility. And what I'm thriving and teaching and living and practicing, which creates mastery, as you know, is how to sort the story from the emotion. What happened and what's the story I made up about what happened? So that's what I've been up to in the world since the last time I've seen you.
Oh, wow, you're very good at saying things concisely in the world of business, and I would love for you to elaborate. Was there any one incident or any group of incidents that put you on this track of understanding that the parent reality, the things that are in front of us, is not the real truth, that have to go deeper? Because I see, ever since I have met you, which is about 6 years ago, I see as somebody who really deeply cares for anything she does. You're not the kind who will you're not surfing on the wave alone. You also deep dive. That's what Gina Velez. Anybody who knows you not just as a surfer, and surfing is fantastic. Initially, we were going to call this surfing through chaos. And you met my wife Seema, and she's like, no, 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 it's not just about surfing. It's soaring, because there are times when we have to go deep, even get suffocated and suffer. And then there's that, emerging out. So tell us a little bit about what brought you to this junction in your life where every little thing has its significance.
If I understand the question correctly, you're asking like, what are the major things that my traumas were that impacted me that catapulted my own growth?
Or anybody in your circle, how it shifted you.
My answer would be owning my results and owning what was happening. So I was born into an alcoholic and drug addict father, and my mother had a nervous breakdown. Mind you, I want to say my mother is amazing now. My father has passed. My brother has also passed. There were drugs, alcohol, poverty, lack of food, scarcity, and a lot of thick skin, and did not process my emotions as I do today. But what happened for me is I wanted my parents' attention. I wanted to be important. I wanted them to love me, to support me, to teach me, to guide me. Those things didn't happen, but sitting in a sense of entitlement, I wanted this to happen. And when I learned to shift entitlement to appreciation, that would be one thing that someone could do right now as an easy shift move. So someone that says, you know, anything that starts with, well, he owes me, or that should have happened, or, well, anything that comes from that ego side that you owe this to me or I deserve it, is an opportunity to get to the basic core gratitudes of oxygen. We just had major fires in California. I appreciate blue skies, oxygen. I appreciate my car that gets me from point A to B. I appreciate the ability to collaborate with you. Not only do I get to touch lives, but I get to have my own experience right now as well, which has nerves, has, oh my gosh, will I do this right? But also has this intuitive knowing of, oh, everything is within me if I stay right here in my presence and locate where I'm at. So learning that I wanted more for myself, and I wanted more connection, yet I was doing things that were actually the opposite of creating connection. Having relationships, marriage that ended in divorce, I just thought that was the biggest failure ever. And I realized that one of my core fears as a 3 and as a person was failure. I mean, just, oh, don't look at me. And I think shame and guilt are 2 really big stumpers in our lives that really don't have a clear definition. But when you can get to the core emotion and not say, oh, I'm sad because I got divorced, but just go like, God, I'm sad. And sit with the failure to see the wisdom behind the failure and the opportunity that is we're innately born with all these gifts. And then life happens. You know, you go to school, sit down, raise your hand to go pee, stop your bodily functions. And so somehow along life, everything stopped and I started numbing everything and getting thick skin. And that was actually the name of my disease at the time, which I don't own today, is scleroderma, which is thick skin. So it's peeling all the layers and seeing what's woven inside my layers. So when I talk to somebody, I want to say, it is possible. Don't get stuck in your excuses. I was lost in my excuses. Oh, but I'm sick. Oh, if only, you know, and all those excuses and all those emotions and all those stories, just, it's unbelievable how much energy they hold. And some of them I didn't even know. Being molested as a child, somewhere at a cellular DNA that I had just disconnected with. I've had memories come back and go, whoa, okay, yeah, that happened, and whew. And usually it comes with, you know, a lot of tears. So yeah, I've had those experiences, and now my new stories are more like, I've created a successful electronics company that's still running, that my son is running, that's now about almost 30 years strong. I've raised a son as a single mom. I've celebrated great relationships. I bought a home in California. You know, there's just a lot of new stories that I can create. I can walk to the beach. What a gift. I can breathe, you know, and looking at all that I have through the lens of what I have instead of what I don't have, that's magic right there. You know, starting the day going, I wonder what will surprise me today. Instead of, oh, I got to get up and go to that place and start complaining and blaming, you know, and that's just a persona that we wear like a mask, instead of saying, oh, I'm not feeling so good today, because you might not like me if I show up to this interview and I don't have it all together, instead of saying, oh no, my stomach is a little tight right now, but being authentic and transparent with actually what's happening inside of me. And like right now, I notice I am talking a lot. And I'm like, whoa.
That was the whole idea. I'm usually the talker, so I've become a really good listener this year.
And that is a gift.
That is a gift.
That is a gift. I think conscious listening is a skill that the whole world can use. So I hope by you exemplifying that, more people can see what a gift it is to hold space for another person.
Yeah, to thousands of people who have known me as a blogger, a writer, a storyteller, this is a new role for me. And I felt it was long overdue, and I didn't know how the gift of listening would come to me because I was always like blah blah blah, thousand stories. As soon as Ben said, "Who wants to share about their life?" I'm like, "Here I am." And it's such a wonderful thing to hear because we all tend to think we are stuck in our own prison. We think that, oh, my situation is the worst. And it is because it is a very personal, visceral situation. I'm feeling it. My body's burning. My mind has got a million things, and there's so much anger and resentment and shame and vulnerability. And I've told my story many times, so I will not repeat. But you know, Gina, what I find amazing about you, and this is really the first time I even asked you to get into a little more details, is how you have grown through many of them. And amazing, I mean, totally amazing. Isn't it true that if you had not been through these challenges, if I had not been through these challenges, my life would have been more or less shallow. I would be just floating. But it almost compelled us to go deeper, to see meaning. And your home is just like 2 minutes away from the amazing Santa Cruz beach. And I'm sure that people who live 2 minutes away from the beach are not just floating all the time. They're also going into the land and doing things. You're like 20 minutes away from the mountains on the other side. So, so we need to find balance between the mountains, the mountain peaks, and the shallow. How do you find balance? How do you find balance in all that you do? I mean, I've known you, I mean, so much going on. I remember your son got married and then you went around the world and still you're right there. You know, how do you find your feet on the ground?
One would be physical, which is locating. One is I practice the Foundation for Conscious Loving Fear Melters, which brings you from fear to here. And they can look that up on Foundation of Conscious Living. But the one is able to locate yourself where you're at physically at any time. So if I'm finding myself running faster than my essence pace or my presencing, and I'm doing this because it usually comes with a head forward, and I start, you know, planning so forward. And that over time can not only make for the neck and the shoulders and the posture, but it can also make for me out of sync with my gifts. And that's how the growing stops too. So my balance for me is physically locating, spiritually connecting, and that could be church, nature, ocean, also mental vacation days. So, you know, and also just a good physical exercise, moving, breathing, connecting. And sometimes it's like, okay, today is an electronics break day. And knowing myself and knowing that I am a doer. Like I love doing, I love being generous, I love creating, I love inspiring. Like the more I know me, the more I have to put my self-care in place. So if I know that I have a lot of speaking to do or classes to run or business things to manage, which is all Newtonian mass world, I'm going to make sure that I put a massage in there or a run or a nap or something to counterbalance so I can self-care for myself, because if I'm not here for myself, I cannot be here for you. Just like they say in the airplanes, right? That's no joke to put the oxygen mask on ourselves. You know, like right there, when I said that, I was like, am I breathing? I'm like, Whew. Like 3 breaths right there. I can talk slower. I can feel like my sit spoons. I go, oh, here I am. I'm sitting in Capitola, California. Yeah, I feel my body right now. I hear the birds at your place. So now my sensories are kicking in. You know, so it's like, taste, sound. So you see how the next one, because it's practicing and then getting to that sensory level and then going, and what's under that? Before I go, what needs to be done out there? What needs to be done out there? Because the magic, we're so afraid we're going to forget. But what's really my purpose and what's really playing my instrument at its best level and taking 100% healthy responsibility for my balance and my well-being, not only will it inspire others to do the same, but my hope is that it will inspire them to create habits that fit their lives, to turn on their purpose, to turn on their harmonizer. Just because I cross a stream and, you know, I take certain rocks doesn't mean that that's going to be the rocks that they take. They'll have their own path. Maybe they'll take the log that's further up on the trail and we'll both meet on the side. But if we both take 100% responsibility, and not responsibility like a mule. Like I was the best mule. I was like, okay, give it to me. No, I got it. Give me the rocks. I'll walk the path for you, you know? But instead of looking at it as that, is look at the ability to respond to what comes at me. Do I have the wherewithal to actually go, how do I want to respond? And that's a how do I want to respond is versus how do I think they want me to respond? Or how do they think I need to respond? Or what can I do that I'll look good in their eyes? You know, where the image is such a trap. So if I don't have self-balance, if I don't have self-care, not only am I not doing the best for me, but I'm also jangling out there. And I'm creating things that, you know, maybe I am going too fast and I fall and I break my leg. Or worse, maybe I'm driving, I hit somebody in that car. You know, so me staying in my well-being is a gift to us all. So that's how I balance. I balance by checking in and also who's running the show. And I think you know this, but I'll say it since you're such a great listener today. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're amazing, Shankar. I honor your practice. Is what I was going to say is when you're in the primal brain, which is, you know, you're in defense mode, you're blaming, you're afraid. Maybe you're sad and scared. That's when the instinct comes out. And when you're in the primal brain, trying to get here is impossible. So having the wherewithal to go, oh, I'm having an emotion. You know, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm joyful. And joy has the same effect because I can only receive so many compliments and then I'm going to be like, you know. But to know that I'm afraid to get to, oh, here I am, to how do I want to respond? So if I have a mask on and I've fallen asleep and I'm in persona, balance isn't possible because I'm running on adrenaline. And most of the United States loves the adrenaline or the food or these false senses of fuel. And what I'm proposing creates creativity, innovation, aliveness, passion. And you mentioned that about me. When I take care of myself, my passion reveals through my purpose, through my presence.
Wow. Wow. If we rush into it, then it takes us places where we may regret later. And, you know, you described the whole mechanism of the 3 parts of the brain and the heart and the gut in such simple words. For those of you who are into neuroscience like me, the geeks, it's about not just reacting, which is very normal, especially during these times when so much is happening that are unpleasant. Some of us don't like what's happening in our neighborhood. So some of us don't like whatever the government is doing, and it's easy to finger point. He's wrong, she's wrong, and but really being present can make all the difference. Tell us about how your life has changed during this pandemic, and
Oh.
in what ways are you able to grow through this?
Oh.
And what's happening? I mean, so much has changed. We've had Santa Cruz fires. I remember soon after we met, was that 2 years ago? More than 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. After we met, there was waterlogging in your home when you're out on a trip. So you've seen it all. You've seen so much, even in the last 2, 3 years. And then again, we've got the California fires, and we've got Corona, everything, Santa Cruz, California, Capitola, Pizza My Heart, everything is shifting as we speak.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah.
how has your life changed? And in what ways have you found your balance back?
The first thing I did was when you said that is I celebrated. And I just want to mention that before I tell you how my life has changed, because I think that's crucial. Because after we notice what we're doing, owning and honoring ourselves, like, yeah, good job, Gina, or, oh, and how do you want to celebrate? Do you want to dance to the music and, of your own drum in the living room? Like, I love how you're teaching dance now. Like, how do you want to celebrate that I put my attention to breathing through the fires? And then when the fires are clearing out, I want to go, oh, I committed to breathing and I did it. And even when I committed, because commitment is the way, but you have to be willing before you can commit. And then once you commit, you still need to recommit. So it's a process. But something happens, and one thing that was going on when we met was a pipe burst. It had too much PSI from the city and popped my refrigerator filter off. And I was at a book reading in San Francisco for Women Rocking Business. One of my friends, Sage Levine, had released a book, and I want to support her. And I feel like I'm a woman rocking business, so I was like, this is my crowd. And I remember I came home and I heard it. My whole body just, I can feel it as if it was yesterday. It was instant primal, walk in the door, step in the water. I knew before I had the knowledge that I had to walk straight to the refrigerator because there was a water leak. I opened these doors, it was like Jumanji. Okay, it was just like, I was just like so wet. Going through each phase was not pleasurable. I didn't go, hoo-hoo, flood. It was crying. I'm in over my head, and what I wanted to do was be that juggler that could spin the plates and got this ball and throw me another. But at one point, even I knew I couldn't hold it anymore. And that's when I'm like, I'm going to make the call to the water restoration company and be seen. Well, as soon as I'm seen that I can't handle this, because I have a story that came down to me from generations. Well, you can handle this. Why can't you handle this? Get it together, Gina. And if it doesn't come from a parent, it could come from a friend or whatever. I was crying on my steps when they showed up. Just, And the universe gave me the sweetest, what do you call them that come out and do the insurance? The case manager, I'll just call her. And she told me, she said, there's nothing you can do here. And I want you to go on the trip that you had planned because you don't want to see the next part of your house.
Wow.
And because I could hear, because I've done my work and I could listen, and I let go of control and I surrendered to this is bigger than me, you know, and if you want to feel that, just go to a big giant redwood in California. We're the only big thing in this big nature, but that's kind of what it was like. Okay, I surrender. And then I got to experience all the magic. But then I come back and my house has no walls. It has no floors. It's damaged in every place. So I'm not saying that the path is going to be a cherry walk or a walk in the park. I think the brave is for the courageous, the ones that say, or the ones that may think they're broken, but say, I see me as whole and complete, and I'm sad and scared. You know, the one that can face what's actually happening and hopefully get some acceptance and or get some support. You know, call a coach, call a therapist. There are so many free services out there too. I've actually been giving free coaching through COVID, or pay what you want. So the person could say, oh, I can't afford it, but then it's another excuse, right? So my life has changed, I would say, one, by saying no more often. So if someone said, oh, I want you to read my book so you can give me a review. Well, how many books can I read and review? Which there was only 2 at the time, but there was also something I wanted to do. So it's like, where do I want to put my energy? So if I have 100 energy points per day, how do I want to spend them? And you can't choose from a primal brain. You can't choose until you see it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I can't face COVID unless I'm willing to see COVID. Like, I'm not blaming politics. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm saying flu is serious and I face into it. And sometimes I'll go, okay, so if COVID is in front of me, I'll go, okay, Gina, what haven't I fully faced about this? And I'll see if something comes to me. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. And then I'll go, okay, what am I willing to see? You know, start there. And if I can't go to willing, okay, what do I want to see? Because sometimes you know, it's too much. Because I'm willing to see that's having an impact on my business. I'm willing to see it's having an impact on my community. I commit to putting a gratitude tree outside of my house that people can write on leaves and clip them on my tree and find something like the firefighters or my family or my health so we can see the good stuff. And then what do I not want to face? Politics would be mine on that one. I struggle with number 45, and I'll make that known. And I'm not saying good or bad. That's another thing. I try not to judge, because judge is another layer of not facing. Blame, judging, criticizing, whether it's inner or outer, it's another way to not see what's actually happening in my world. So each step I take is towards my inherent wholeness, is towards my ability to know what was then, what's now, what's their responsibility, what's mine to own here. So a lot of it is sorting I want to say and feeling. I think that part of my success, and I have a lot of it, Shankar, I am so blessed. Single mother, 16 and pregnant, no parental supervision. My child is doing amazing.
Yes, yes.
You know, I have my health.
Your wonderful daughter-in-law, and do they have kids now? I remember the time when you got married.
Yes, yes. And I had the money to give them a great wedding with, you know, and they also paid too, but to have the resources, to have enough money for everything I could ever want or need.
Yes.
To know that I have enough. You know, I just, yeah, I mean, I guess if I ask myself, how my life has changed. I breathe easier. My stress is I would have never thought my stress was self-created. But when you own it, or when I own it, I like to say that because when I say you own it, it's not really saying I own it, right? But when I work from 8 to 5 and I don't get up for lunch or a break, who created that? So unconsciously or consciously, we are creating our results. So, and I really appreciate all the classes I've taken too. You know, I'm always reading a book, taking a class, asking people their experiences, and just, I'm a lifelong learner. And I think that's another key. So if you want to learn how to not get triggered by the news, not get triggered by people's actions, you know, you go in the store and someone's yelling at the clerk, but to go like, oh, I'm feeling this, and how can I best take care of myself right now in the greater good of me and others? And I feel like I've kind of jumped all over, but I get really excited. So maybe you can reel me in.
No, this is exactly the point. In the midst of chaos, we cannot be just doing things linearly, step A, step B, step C. I mean, things were going great in California because the governor got shelter in place. One of the first states to go into shelter in place. Everything was done systematically. And then came the fires. 70,000 acres burned in our neighborhood, right? Big Sur and downtown Santa Cruz. So it's not a linear solution at all. So when things are not linear, you cannot just go in a straight line or say step A, step B, step C, step D. So what you're doing is describing the nature of how do we deal with conflict. There's no formula. There's no defined method. And you've learned many methods, so have I, whether it's the Enneagram or it's the compassion cultivation training, mindfulness. These are nice buzzwords to have, but to be able to describe the lived experience is amazing. So that reminds me, you've seen so much in your life and you've traveled to distant places. You've actually been through. Were you born in Hawaii or you have some family from Hawaii also, isn't it?
We do have family in Oahu. My lineage is from Spain, and then from
Oh,
Spain to Puerto Rico to Oahu.
wow.
And I was oh gosh, I was from 21 to, I would say about 28 years, I was an electrical engineer. So talk about a transition of life purpose. And I would say that was more of my super confident. I got a lot of accolades for, and I did have a passion for it. You know, wanted to buy the house, feed the kids. You know, I liked money. I just didn't know I had to have a relationship with it. That came later because it is energy. Um, Honestly, I went to Asia and I was there probably every other month. I stayed months in China, and that's another eye-opener. You know, cultural differences, how people live. That was also huge in my shifts, you know, of how I wanted to show up. You know, there was just not one way to do something. But until you see it, you're acting out of, like, there's a saber-toothed tiger gonna get you, or, you know, you know, and you're frozen. So if I'm frozen, I'm not gonna be able to respond to you. But if I can find my movement and my breath, which are part of Fear Meltzer's, oh, here I am. So in the midst of looking at Big Basin, which the fire, just like looking at the picture, I just like, my eyes watered, my nose got all tingly, you know, like, you know, you're gonna cry. And I lost all my breath and my chest went flat. And it took me a day of just like, whoa. Because I kind of went like faint on it. Like I did not want to see the reality of these fires. And I went to go donate, speaking of travel, I'll tie these two together. Every time I travel, I would collect a shampoo or a soap, and I'd have these collections from France and Italy, and I loved all these little bottles. They meant so much to me, you know, in the hotels. So I decided to wrap them in baggies, and I brought them to the fire victims. And I thought of how much love I had in these little shampoo bottles and soaps. And I just, after I lost the attachment, I gave the love.
Wow. Wow.
So that energy, you know, that I have for the travel, the passion, I just, because it really to me is like, oh, I can still love this and I can give it to share. And so that kind of ties into what you're up to on this platform too.
Yeah, well, like you, I'm into achievement, or what I sometimes call the achievement syndrome. In other words, the desire to keep doing things and be known. And I've been a blogger in the electronics industry, in the biotech industry, and neuroscience space. So it's very easy to get into the temptation of, oh, Shankar, you're so great. And a lot of that comes out of somewhere there's a voice saying, you're not good enough.
Oh, yes.
Or you may be
Yes.
the president of the US, but you're still not
Yes.
good enough.
Yes.
Each one
Yes.
of us goes through that. Each one of us has gone through it again and
Am I
again and
shining?
again.
Am I shining bright enough? Is my, you know, that same, am I good enough?
Yeah, like I looked at when we just started this meeting, I was initially worried about your lighting, but that came out perfect. And oh, my lighting is not good enough. Well, it's daylight. Do people care how well lit I am when they've come to listen to you and to me? It could even be a podcast, right? But this kind of obsession over how we look, how we are perceived, can rob the whole experience. And I'm so grateful you're sharing all that. There is no step by step process. Yes, there are many processes. Each one contributes, whether it's I do my regular practice is Vipassana or yoga pranayama, they all contribute. And of course, I like my dance meditation, and you have many, and we're going to share all the links, especially the links that Gina has been, the kind of processes that you've been involved in the teachings. But there's that presence which cannot be done as a formula. So
Yes.
tell us more about anything you want to say. I mean, we've talked about many things now. As
Yes.
we bring it to a close, I would love for you to share where you think you're going next, and also anything that we may have missed out in this conversation so far.
I love how you said we can't predict because we try so hard to manage and control the future and the outcomes and how I'm going to behave and how things are going to turn out. And the presencing piece is not always possible. That's why I highly recommend talking to someone that does have this in line with their purpose. Because we all have our purpose. You know, if I need to get in touch with my body, I can go to a guru that's into body. And I do, you know, or I go to yoga because that is not my genius. That is not my purpose. So I stay on my purpose and I stay in my presence. And when I'm working with a client or a group, I'm listening for what wants to happen, not versus what I think should happen. So letting someone come in with their issues and their wholeness and their organicness, I can see them. We're better mirrors for each other than we are for ourselves at times. So if I notice someone is being really critical or complaining, I could say, are you complaining? And they go, oh, you're right, I was. Because in that moment, that's maybe the next thing that's up for them to practice or to see. But once they can see, then they can maybe take more work on themselves and journaling and letting out some creative expression. But sometimes you may need someone to give you that reflection. So I guess that's one thing I want to say is don't think you have to do it all on your own. you're not alone and you can't do it wrong. So if you know you can't do it wrong, you're not alone, and you can't fail, a lot more becomes possible. And what's
Yeah.
next for me, and I'm going to tie that into when we first met. We were doing a group activity, and I don't even know if you remember this. You came up to me and you said, Gina, I had an image that you were speaking into a large group. Well, that's what's next for me. Because they
Wow.
keep getting bigger and larger, and I'm growing my edges of capacity and expansion to hold more energy, more space, to reach more people. In a oneness. And I want you to notice how I tapped into that. Did you see how I had to slow down to see what wanted to happen versus what I thought? Like my body intelligence just gave me the word oneness. I didn't know that was going to come out. So checking in and going that I want my purpose to be for the greater good, for the greater whole, for the wholeness, for the oneness, not the us versus them. We are all equal. And the sooner we all see this, the sooner we all see each other as whole, the better. But I believe I started seeing people whole when I started seeing myself whole. I could love people when I loved myself. So it really comes down to what am I willing to really dive deep in? What am I willing to get raw with? You know, am I willing to crawl on my carpet in a fetal position and cry? Yes. Was there a day I thought I'd never stop crying? Yes. Is that the case today? No. And on the other side of that, I can recommit and get back onto what I do want to do instead of what's coming at me. I get more choice. So I guess what's next is more community, more sharing, more loving, more compassion for myself and others. More presencing, more self-care, more balance. And when I need to put on the hat of I'm going to work and I've got to bust this project out, that's okay because I know my hat's on and I know how to take my hat off and say, whoo, good job, Gina, whoo.
That's true. That's true. Many times I've been told the most common mantra we hear in these holistic or healing thing is let go, and I'm like, which is great, which is important. But if we just let go, we cannot hold anything. We have to come back. We have to put that hat on. In the hard hat area, we have to put the hat on and do the thing. You have to fix the thing or get help to get the house fixed like you had to do. And go on vacation when you need to. Vacate your mind and vacate yourself from even the internet. I've been doing so many interviews. Next week is my week off, and I'm going to go to the Gandhi ashram where Gandhi started his work. It's about 2 hours away, and I haven't done that because of COVID. That's one excuse. The other is because I have all these amazing people I'm talking to. But yeah, it is necessary to have self-care. Gina, we've shared about so many things. I'm so grateful. And especially, this is the first time I really listened to you more than I've ever done. And I want to continue doing that. Please remind me. I always tell my friends, please remind me to listen. Otherwise, I'll be like, blah, 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 blah. So, and again, we will share all the links to Gina's work and to mine. This is not an advertisement. This is just sharing out of gratitude. Gina has been helpful to me in ways I cannot even imagine. We've known each other for more than 6 years. And I'm grateful to Ben Salzman, who started the whole Enneagram program and empowerment, not just in Santa Cruz, but in San Francisco, and anybody who joins, even as he had to go through a major family challenge. He kept that, the light on. Amazing guy. And that I got introduced to Ben Salzman from Wisdom 2.0, Soren Gordhammer, and amazing people. And that I got introduced to from the Center for Compassion at Stanford, which I got into because of my meditation practice as yoga and vipassana. And I'm grateful to literally thousands of people who brought you and I together, brought me into this universe of supporting and healing and self-care, as well as the me and the reconnection.
Yeah, and interrupting, but even those teachers before us, the Rumi, the Gandhi, thanking all the teachers that came before us that chose to empower instead of enable.
Yeah.
That wanted to show you how to fish instead of feeding you for ego, but actually wanting you to be their equal, wanting you to, be transparent and authentic.
And Gina, one thing I wanted to ask you, because I've been noticing this more and more. One of the first people to remind us was the Dalai Lama himself. He's the co-founder of the Center for Compassion at Stanford. And he said that most likely the next Buddha is not going to be an individual, it's going to be in people. And it's not going to be just, if there was a person, it would not be a man, it will probably be a Western woman, something like that. He wanted to emphasize the fact that God is androgynous and that the yin and the yang and the doing and the being have to fuse at some point. What do you feel about that? I really want to understand this, Gina, and I know you've done a lot of work with women, you've done a lot of work with men, you've done a lot of work with animals and the environment. Do you see that happening really? The big shift, we're talking about the new normal. Do you see men and women coming together, children coming together? Do you see the guru is not just a male figure, but is now coming out from within all of us? Is that where we are going? What do you think?
I would like to believe that. I feel a resonance in my body when you say that, more than dissonance. Like I feel like yes. So my answer is yes, I feel that. And I believe it's going to take some conscious communities and some conscious corporations, which I already see happening with the conscious leadership group. So I do have fear that came in. The voice that said, yeah, they thought that was going to happen how many years ago, and who said that, and what said that? But I think we're at a tipping point. And I don't know which way it's going to go, but I'm voting for consciousness. I'm voting for humans and humanity. I don't want any more dehumanizing. It doesn't matter if you were worth 10 million and now you're completely broke. I still see you, I still love you. It doesn't matter if what was then, it's what's now, and you have every day to recreate that. So no more excuses, be part of the movement, get curious, get more interested in the question versus the answer, and turn on the beginner's mind and be open to discovery. There's magic out there.
Wow. And I love that. We're almost done with this particular episode. And I love that you concluded with turn on your beginner's mind. We're not done. This is not the ending. This is a new beginning. And a reminder that each moment is a new beginning.
Yes. Yeah, once I heard to meet everybody as it's the last time or the first time.
Wow.
I literally feel my body, my hands are getting clammy and a little bit of heat. And that is a sign of my body intelligence going, yum, yeah, this is what I want to create in the world. And knowing your body signals, what's your no, what's your less, what's your no, what's your yes? You know, it's like knowing, am I hungry or am I afraid? You know, or am I hungry? Am I scared? Am I open or am I closed? Am I willing to be open or am I really committed to being closed? You know, this is a good sign if you see somebody, I'll stand up, if you see somebody going, doesn't look very open, huh? So knowing like your own body signals and supporting others as a loving, appreciative, compassionate human, and knowing yourself as whole and them as whole with nothing to fix, because we are not broken. And we have things that need healing. We have things that need opening up and looking at. And you can choose not to, but what we resist usually persists. So the lesson may come around a little bit harder. And I just hope that the world will start taking the soft, gentle reminders instead of the heavy ones that we've been faced with, especially this year. Yeah. Yeah, I feel complete.
Me too. And please stay in touch, both you, Gina, as well as everybody out here. And if you have a question, you know where to find us. We will give you the links. And I'm so grateful that with all the people who supported us to connect, and it's like becoming a global community of sharing, supporting each other. I'm so grateful.
Oh, yes. Yes. I love your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your happiness project. That was part of my growth. Every day I saw the happiness project, it was like, yes, I love this village I'm creating, you know? And in your 20s, 30s, 40s, maybe every time you have to look who you're playing with in the sandbox and wonder why you're playing with them, and is it healthy for you? Is it serving you? Or is it just something we think we need to do?
Yeah,
You
and I
know?
would love to thank Randy Teran, the founder of Project Happiness.
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
and Katie Hendricks, who's the founder of the Foundation for Conscious Living and part of the Big Leap Home program. She's, yeah. Oh, yes, there are so many people.
yeah. Would you like to thank any others?
I think of Marv Cohen, Ben Salzman would be up there. I think of every author of the books that I read that discipline themselves enough to get their messages out, that I was able to experience their experiences through their eyes and let me absorb what I needed to absorb by picking up that book. I think the world is perfect and everything happens for a reason. And looking at that as what's in it for me, what's in it for me to learn, what can serve my highest interest in this moment from this experience is like, it's just, yeah.
Wow.
I could talk forever. So just, rein me in whenever you need to.
And we will continue this dialogue if there's enough interest. We'll continue, and because every ending is another beginning, and there's so much we can share with each other.
Yes, maybe we'll find each other in another part of the world too.
Yeah, yeah.
Going to Africa, once the gates open, I'm out. I'll be with you.
Yes, who let the dogs out? So
That may be the song I danced in the living room with nobody here.
wow.